The morning sun cast long shadows across the Naval Special Warfare Training Facility as Sarah Martinez adjusted her gear bag and walked toward the briefing room. At 26, she had already proven herself in multiple combat deployments, but today felt different. Today, she was about to face the most skeptical audience of her military career. The whispers started before she even reached the door. Groups of Navy SEALs clustered near the entrance, their conversations dying to murmurs as she passed. She caught fragments of their discussions, words like publicity stunt and diversity quota floating through the air. Sarah kept her expression neutral, though her jaw tightened slightly. She had heard it all before, and she knew she would hear it again. Inside the briefing room, 32 of the Navy's most elite operators sat in folding chairs arranged in neat rows. These were men who had seen action in every major conflict of the past decade, warriors whose reputation preceded them into every room they entered. Today, they were being told that a woman would be joining their sniper team for an upcoming mission in Syria. Commander Jake Sullivan stood at the front of the room, a weathered man in his 40s whose presence commanded immediate respect. He had been leading SEAL operations for over 15 years, and his teams trusted his judgment completely. But even he seemed to hesitate as Sarah entered the room and took a seat in the back row. "Gentlemen," Sullivan began, his voice carrying easily through the room, "I want to introduce you to Petty Officer First Class Sarah Martinez. She'll be joining Team Bravo as our primary sniper for Operation Desert Wind." The silence that followed was deafening. 32 pairs of eyes turned to study Sarah, most expressing open disbelief. She sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, meeting their stares with calm professionalism. Chief Petty Officer Mike Torres, a barrel-chested man with arms covered in tattoos, was the first to speak. "Sir, with all due respect, are we running a daycare center now? This is a combat mission, not a training exercise." Several men chuckled, and Sarah felt the familiar burn of anger in her chest. She had graduated top of her class from sniper school, completed 3 successful deployments with Marine units, and had more confirmed kills than most of the men in this room. But none of that seemed to matter. "I understand your concerns, Chief," Sullivan replied diplomatically. "But Petty Officer Martinez comes highly recommended. She's completed advanced urban warfare training, has extensive experience in Middle Eastern operations, and her marksmanship scores are exceptional." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Foster, a tall man with piercing blue eyes, leaned back in his chair. "Scores on a range are one thing, Commander. Combat is something else entirely. When bullets start flying and adrenaline kicks in, can she handle the pressure? Can she make the hard shots when lives are on the line?" Sarah finally spoke, her voice steady and clear. "I've made those shots before, sir. 47 confirmed kills over 3 deployments. Longest confirmed kill at 1,247 meters using an M24 SWS in Afghanistan." The room fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a different quality. Several men shifted uncomfortably in their seats. These were impressive numbers, and they knew it. Sergeant First Class Danny Wilson, a compact man with intelligent eyes, studied Sarah more carefully. "What units have you served with, Martinez?" "2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. Direct Action Company. I was attached to Force Recon for my last deployment." Sarah's voice remained professional, but there was steel underneath. These were elite units, and everyone in the room knew their reputation. "Force Recon." Torres seemed surprised. "Those jarheads don't mess around. What were you doing with them?" "Urban sniper operations in Ramadi and Fallujah. Counter-sniper work, mostly. Protecting convoys and clearing buildings." Sarah paused, then added, "I was the only sniper in my unit to complete every mission without casualties to the teams I was supporting." Commander Sullivan nodded approvingly. "Petty Officer Martinez has an exemplary record. Her previous commanding officers speak very highly of her abilities under pressure." But the skepticism remained thick in the air. These men had trained together, fought together, bled together. They were a brotherhood forged in combat, and Sarah was an outsider. Worse, she was an outsider who challenged everything they believed about their exclusive world. Staff Sergeant Carlos Reyes, a quiet man who rarely spoke during briefings, finally broke his silence. "No offense, Martinez, but Have you ever been in a situation where your team was pinned down, taking heavy fire, and you had to make a shot that meant the difference between everyone going home or coming back in body bags? Sarah met his gaze directly. Yes, Sergeant. Twice in Afghanistan, once in Iraq. Each time, I eliminated the threat, and my team completed the mission with no friendly casualties. She's a woman, Torres said bluntly, voicing what many were thinking. When things go bad, when we're carrying wounded and need someone to lay down covering fire while we extract, is she going to be able to handle the physical demands? Can she carry a wounded operator to safety? Sarah stood up slowly, her movements controlled and purposeful. At 5 feet 8 inches and 140 pounds, she was smaller than every man in the room. But her posture radiated confidence and barely contained power. Chief Torres, I've carried wounded Marines to safety under enemy fire. I've rappelled down cliff faces with full gear, and I've completed every physical training standard required for this assignment. Her voice remained calm, but her eyes flashed with determination. If you're concerned about my capabilities, I'm happy to demonstrate them. Lieutenant Commander Foster smirked. What do you mean, demonstrate? I mean put your doubts to rest right now. Set up whatever test you want. Physical, tactical, marksmanship. I'll prove I belong here. The room erupted in murmurs. This was unprecedented. No one had ever challenged a group of SEALs so directly, especially not someone who hadn't been through their training pipeline. Commander Sullivan held up his hand for silence. That won't be necessary, Martinez. You've already passed all required qualifications. With respect, sir, Sarah replied, I think it is necessary. I can see that these men have concerns about my abilities. Rather than let those doubts fester and potentially compromise the mission, let's address them now. Chief Torres leaned forward in his chair. You're serious about this? Dead serious, Chief. Fine. Torres stood up, his massive frame dwarfing Sarah's slender build. You want to prove yourself? We've got a practical exercise scheduled for this afternoon. Urban warfare simulation. Multiple targets, time constraints, physical challenges. You game? Sarah smiled for the first time since entering the room. I've been waiting for this invitation all morning. The tension in the room was palpable. Word spread quickly through the facility that the new female sniper was going to attempt the SEAL team's notorious practical exercise. By lunchtime, virtually every operator on base was talking about it. The exercise was designed to push even experienced SEALs to their limits. It involved a complex urban environment with multiple buildings, hidden targets, physical obstacles, and time pressure that forced split-second decisions. Most operators required multiple attempts to achieve passing scores. Sergeant Wilson approached Sarah during lunch. Martinez, you don't have to do this. Nobody's questioning your record or your abilities. Yes, they are, Sarah replied quietly. And they should. I'm asking them to trust me with their lives. They have every right to want proof that I can deliver when it matters. This exercise is brutal. It's designed to break people down, not build them up. Some of our best operators have failed it multiple times. Sarah nodded. I understand. But I didn't get this far by backing down from challenges. As the afternoon approached, more and more personnel gathered around the training area. The exercise had taken on an almost legendary quality. It wasn't just about one woman trying to prove herself anymore. It had become a test of assumptions, a challenge to the very nature of their elite community. Commander Sullivan pulled Sarah aside before the exercise began. Martinez, I want you to understand something. You don't need to prove anything to me or to anyone else in this command. Your record speaks for itself. I appreciate that, sir. But I need to prove it to myself. And I need to prove it to them. We're going into combat together. They need to know they can count on me. And I need to know they respect my capabilities. Sullivan nodded slowly. Very well. But remember, this is just a training exercise. It doesn't define who you are or what you're capable of. The exercise area was a maze of concrete buildings and steel obstacles designed to simulate an urban combat environment. Hidden throughout the complex were 9 targets, each representing a high-value enemy position that needed to be eliminated. The challenge was to locate and neutralize all targets within a 15-minute time limit while navigating physical obstacles and making tactical decisions under pressure. Sarah stood at the starting line, her gear checked and rechecked. She carried an M4 carbine with attached optics, a sidearm, and basic tactical equipment. The weight felt familiar and comfortable, like an extension of her body. Chief Torres explained the rules one final time. 9 targets total. Some are obvious, some are well concealed. You need to clear each building systematically while maintaining awareness of potential threats from multiple directions. Time starts when you cross the start line and ends when you neutralize the final target or when 15 minutes expires. Sarah nodded her understanding. Around the perimeter of the exercise area, dozens of SEALs had gathered to watch. Their expressions ranged from skeptical to curious to openly hostile. She could feel the weight of their stares, but she had learned long ago to channel that pressure into focus. Martinez, Torres called out, last chance to back out. No shame in recognizing when you're in over your head. Sarah adjusted her weapon sling and looked directly at him. Chief, the only thing I'm going to be ashamed of is if I don't finish this course faster than your best time. Torres laughed, but it wasn't entirely friendly. My best time is 11 minutes, 43 seconds. Good luck with that. Sarah stepped to the starting line and took a deep breath. Everything she had worked for in her military career came down to the next few minutes. Every doubt that had been expressed about female operators, every skeptical look, every whispered comment about diversity quotas, it all crystallized into this moment. The timer started, and Sarah exploded into motion. She moved through the first building with fluid precision, her weapon up and ready, eyes constantly scanning for threats. The first target was positioned behind a window on the second floor, an easy shot for someone with her training. She took the shot without hesitation, the suppressed rifle barely making a sound. Moving to the second building, she encountered her first physical challenge, a wall that required scaling to access the upper levels. Without breaking stride, she slung her weapon and pulled herself up with smooth efficiency. Her years of physical training showed as she navigated the obstacle with the same ease as her male counterparts. The second target was more challenging, partially concealed behind cover that required her to find an unconventional shooting position. Sarah dropped prone behind a concrete barrier and took the shot from an awkward angle that demonstrated both flexibility and technical skill. By the time she reached the third building, whispers had started among the watching SEALs. She was moving faster than most of them had expected, and her shooting was flawless. The third and fourth targets fell in quick succession, each requiring different tactical approaches. Sarah adapted seamlessly to each challenge, her movements economical and purposeful. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation, no second-guessing. The fifth target was positioned to test decision-making under pressure. It was located in a room with multiple entry points, and choosing the wrong approach could result in exposure to simulated enemy fire. Sarah studied the building for less than 30 seconds before selecting a route that demonstrated sophisticated tactical thinking. She entered through an unexpected angle, using shadows and cover to mask her approach. The target fell cleanly, and she was already moving toward the sixth building before the impact was confirmed. The sixth and seventh targets required rapid transitions between different ranges and shooting positions. Sarah demonstrated the ability to engage threats accurately at both close and extended ranges, adapting her technique flawlessly to each requirement. As she approached the eighth target, Chief Torres checked his stopwatch and shook his head in disbelief. She was well ahead of pace, moving through the course with a combination of speed and precision that few operators achieved. The eighth target was the most challenging yet, requiring her to climb to an elevated position while maintaining weapon readiness. Sarah attacked the obstacle aggressively, her physical conditioning evident as she hauled herself and her gear to the required height without apparent effort. From her elevated position, she had clear sight lines to the final target. But this target was different. It required a shot at extended range through a narrow window, with wind conditions that would challenge even experienced snipers. Sarah settled into her shooting position, controlled her breathing, and began her final calculations. The wind was variable, the target partially obscured, and the angle was difficult. It was exactly the kind of shot that separated competent marksmen from truly elite snipers. She squeezed the trigger with perfect follow-through, and the final target dropped cleanly. The silence that followed was complete. Chief Torres stared at his stopwatch, his expression unreadable. Commander Sullivan stepped forward, waiting for the official time. 11 minutes, 17 seconds, Torres announced, his voice carrying across the training area. All 9 targets neutralized. The gathered SEALs stood in stunned silence. Sarah had not only completed their most challenging exercise, she had done it faster than any of them had ever managed. More importantly, she had done it with a level of tactical sophistication and marksmanship skill that commanded immediate respect. Sarah unloaded her weapon and secured it, then walked back toward the starting line. Her breathing was elevated but controlled, and her expression remained professional. She showed no signs of the triumph that must have been coursing through her veins. Chief Torres approached her, his earlier skepticism replaced by something that looked very much like respect. "Martinez, that was impressive." "Thank you, Chief. I hope this addresses any concerns about my capabilities." Lieutenant Commander Foster, who had been one of her harshest critics, stepped forward. "Where did you learn to move like that?" "Force Recon taught me urban tactics. Marine Sniper School taught me precision shooting. 3 combat deployments taught me how to put it all together under pressure." Sarah paused, then added, "The same places all of you learned your skills." Sergeant Wilson extended his hand. "Welcome to the team, Martinez. I think we're going to work well together." As Sarah shook hands with Wilson, she noticed that the atmosphere around her had shifted completely. The men who had been openly skeptical an hour earlier were now studying her with professional interest. She had done more than complete their exercise. She had earned their respect through demonstrated competence. Commander Sullivan addressed the group. "Gentlemen, I think we can all agree that Petty Officer Martinez has proven her qualifications for this assignment. I expect her to be treated with the same respect and professionalism that you show to any other member of this team." Over the next several hours, individual SEALs approached Sarah to discuss tactics, equipment, and mission planning. The conversations were professional and focused, treating her as a valued team member rather than an outsider to be tolerated. Chief Torres found her during evening chow, sitting alone and reviewing mission documents. "Martinez, can I join you?" "Of course, Chief." Torres sat down across from her, his massive frame making the metal chair creak. "I owe you an apology. I made assumptions about your capabilities based on factors that had nothing to do with your professional qualifications." "No apology necessary, Chief. You were protecting your team. That's exactly what a good leader should do." "Maybe, but I should have looked at your record more carefully before making judgments. 47 confirmed kills is nothing to dismiss lightly." Sarah looked up from her documents. "Chief, can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "If I had been a male Marine with identical qualifications and identical performance in today's exercise, would there have been any doubt about my inclusion in this team?" Torres considered the question carefully. "Honestly, no, there wouldn't have been." "Then, we're both learning something valuable. I'm learning what it takes to earn acceptance in this community, and you're learning that competence comes in different packages than you might expect." Torres nodded slowly. "Fair enough. But, Martinez, you need to understand something about this team. We've been together for 2 years. We know each other's capabilities, habits, and limitations. Trust is built over time, through shared experiences under pressure. I understand that, Chief. And I know that one exercise doesn't make me part of the Brotherhood. But it's a start. It's more than a start. What you did today was exceptional. But, tomorrow, we start preparing for a real mission. The stakes will be higher, the margin for error smaller." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "I'm ready for that challenge." As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself gradually included in the informal conversations and planning sessions that characterized the team's preparation routine. The acceptance wasn't complete. That would take time and shared experience, but it was genuine. She had taken the first crucial step in proving that her gender was irrelevant to her professional capabilities. But she also knew that the real test was yet to come. In less than a week, they would be deploying to Syria, where her skills would be tested not against training targets, but against real enemies who would shoot back. The mission briefing was scheduled for the following morning, and Sarah spent the evening studying intelligence reports and satellite imagery. She had proven she could handle the SEAL team's training challenges, but operational success would require more than individual skill. It would require seamless integration with a team that was still learning to trust her. As she prepared for bed, Sarah reflected on the events of the day. She had faced down the skepticism and doubt that had followed her throughout her military career. She had proven her capabilities in the most direct way possible. But she also understood that this was just the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove herself, and new chances to earn the complete trust of the men who would soon be relying on her skills to bring them home safely. Sarah Martinez had won the first battle, but the war for acceptance and respect in the world's most elite military units was far from over. The mission briefing room was thick with tension as the team assembled at 0600 hours. Sarah arrived early, claiming a seat in the middle of the group rather than her previous position in the back. The subtle shift in her positioning reflected the changes that had occurred since her performance the previous day. Commander Sullivan entered with a stack of classified folders, followed by Captain Rebecca Hayes from Naval Intelligence. Hayes was a sharp-featured woman in her 30s whose reputation for thorough mission planning was legendary throughout the special operations community. "Gentlemen and lady," Sullivan began, nodding towards Sarah, "Operation Desert Wind is a direct action mission targeting a high-value individual in the Syrian city of Al-Mayadin. Our intelligence indicates that Abu Rashid al-Baghdadi, a key ISIS financial coordinator, will be attending a meeting at a compound in the city's industrial district." Captain Hayes stepped forward and activated the wall-mounted display. Satellite imagery showed a sprawling complex of concrete buildings surrounded by high walls. The target compound consists of 7 buildings arranged around a central courtyard. Intelligence suggests the meeting will take place in the main building here. She indicated a 3-story structure in the center of the complex. "The challenge," Hayes continued, "is that al-Baghdadi never stays in one location for more than a few hours. We have a narrow window of opportunity, estimated at 90 minutes maximum, between his arrival and departure." Chief Torres studied the imagery carefully. "What about enemy strength? Security measures?" "Conservative estimate is 20 to 30 armed guards throughout the complex. They have established overlapping fields of fire covering all approaches. Additionally, there are at least 3 technical vehicles, pickup trucks with mounted machine guns, positioned at strategic points." Lieutenant Commander Foster leaned forward in his chair. "Extraction route. That's where this mission becomes particularly challenging," Sullivan replied. "The compound is located in the heart of ISIS-controlled territory. The nearest friendly forces are 40 kilometers away. Helicopter extraction is possible, but only from a landing zone approximately 2 kilometers from the target." Sarah raised her hand. "Sir, what's the role of sniper support in this operation?" Hayes pulled up a new image showing the surrounding terrain. "Excellent question, Martinez. The compound is overlooked by this ridge line, approximately 800 meters to the east. Our plan calls for sniper overwatch to eliminate key sentries and provide covering fire during the assault and extraction phases." 800 meters through urban terrain, Sarah mused, studying the angles. "What about wind conditions and visibility?" "Prevailing winds from the southwest at 5 to 8 knots. Visibility is typically good in the morning hours, with heat shimmer becoming a factor after 1,000 hours." Hayes seemed impressed by the technical nature of Sarah's questions. Sergeant Wilson pointed to several positions on the imagery. "Those guard towers are going to be problems. They have clear sight lines over the entire approach route." Sarah studied the positions carefully. "I can neutralize those towers, but I'll need precise timing coordination with the assault team. The guards will have radio communication, so once the first shot is fired, we'll have maybe 30 seconds before the entire compound goes to alert status." Chief Torres nodded approvingly. "That's exactly the kind of tactical thinking we need. Martinez, you'll be positioned here." He indicated a spot on the ridge, "with Sergeant Wilson as your spotter. The rest of us will approach from the north, using this drainage ditch for concealment." The briefing continued for 2 hours, with every aspect of the mission dissected and analyzed. Sarah contributed consistently to the tactical discussion, her questions and observations demonstrating deep understanding of urban warfare principles. The other team members gradually stopped treating her inputs as surprising and began incorporating her expertise naturally into their planning. "Timeline," Sullivan announced. "We deploy in 72 hours. Between now and then, We'll conduct 2 full mission rehearsals using the replica compound at the training facility. Martinez, I want you to familiarize yourself with the exact shooting positions and angles. After the briefing, the team broke into smaller groups to discuss specific mission elements. Sarah found herself working with Wilson on communication protocols and target identification procedures. The stocky sergeant had emerged as one of her strongest supporters since her performance the previous day. Martinez, I've been thinking about those guard towers, Wilson said as they reviewed the compound layout. The angles are tricky. You're going to need to engage multiple targets in rapid succession, probably without being able to confirm each kill before moving to the next. Sarah nodded. I've done similar work in Fallujah. The key is knowing your holdovers for each position in advance and trusting your initial shot placement. No time for follow-up shots if you want to maintain surprise. What rifle are you planning to use? I prefer the M24, but given the range and target array, I'm thinking the State Route 25 might be more appropriate. Semi-automatic capability for rapid follow-up shots, and the .308 round has enough energy at 800 meters to guarantee one-shot stops. Wilson seemed surprised. Most snipers would go with bolt action for precision work. Most snipers aren't being asked to engage multiple targets in under 30 seconds, Sarah replied. Sometimes tactical requirements override pure accuracy considerations. Their conversation was interrupted by Chief Torres, who had been listening from nearby. Martinez, what's your experience with the State Route 25 platform? Extensive, Chief. I carried one for my last 6 months in Afghanistan. Took my longest confirmed kill with that system, the 1,247-meter shot I mentioned yesterday. From memory, what's the bullet drop at 800 meters with 168 grain match ammunition? Sarah didn't hesitate. Approximately 32 inches with a 100-meter zero. But atmospheric conditions at the target location will probably require adjustment for temperature and altitude. Torres exchanged glances with Wilson. She knows her ballistics, he admitted grudgingly. Over the next 3 days, the team conducted intensive mission rehearsals. Sarah's integration into the unit proceeded smoothly, her professional competence earning gradual acceptance from even the most skeptical team members. During the rehearsals, she consistently delivered accurate fire on schedule, proving that her range performance translated effectively to tactical scenarios. The replica compound was constructed to match satellite imagery exactly, allowing the team to practice their approach routes and timing. Sarah worked extensively with Wilson to perfect their communication procedures and target engagement sequence. Contact, Guard Tower 1. Wilson would call through the radio headset. Guard Tower 1 confirmed. Engaging, Sarah would respond. Then, simulate the shot before immediately transitioning to the next target. The rehearsals revealed several minor issues with the original plan, requiring adjustments to timing and positioning. Sarah's input proved valuable in refining the sniper support sequence, particularly in identifying optimal shooting positions that maximize coverage while minimizing exposure. Lieutenant Commander Foster, who had been one of her harshest initial critics, approached her after the final rehearsal. Martinez, I owe you an apology. I made assumptions that weren't fair. No harm done, sir. Professional skepticism is healthy in our line of work. Maybe, but my skepticism was based on prejudice, not professionalism. Your performance during these rehearsals has been exemplary. Sarah appreciated the acknowledgement, but she also knew that words were easier than battlefield performance. The real test would come when they were facing actual enemies who could shoot back. The deployment phase went smoothly, with the team infiltrating Syrian airspace at night via helicopter. They were inserted 15 kilometers from the target area and proceeded on foot through hostile territory. Sarah carried her gear with the same endurance as her male teammates, never requiring assistance or causing delays. The movement to the target area took 6 hours, with the team moving carefully through terrain that could conceal enemy patrols. Sarah's field craft proved excellent, her ability to move silently and maintain camouflage discipline matching the high standards of her SEAL colleagues. As dawn approached, the team reached their final positions. Sarah and Wilson occupied a concealed observation post on the ridge overlooking the target compound, while the assault team moved into position for their approach. Overwatch in position, Sarah reported through her radio headset. I have clear lines of sight to all designated targets. Through her scope, she could see the compound coming to life in the early morning light. Guards moved between buildings, following patrol routines that had been identified during the intelligence preparation phase. Everything matched the briefing information exactly. Multiple guards visible, Wilson reported, scanning the compound through binoculars. Count shows consistent with intelligence estimates. Sarah methodically ranged each guard position, noting exact distances and environmental conditions. The morning air was still, with minimal wind that would affect bullet trajectory. Visibility was excellent, with clear sight lines to all critical targets. At 0830 hours, a convoy of 3 vehicles approached the compound's main gate. Intelligence had predicted al-Baghdadi's arrival for approximately this time, and the vehicle composition matched expected patterns. Probable target arrival, Wilson observed. 3 vehicles entering the compound. Sarah tracked the vehicles through her scope as they proceeded to the main building. Several individuals exited the vehicles, but positive identification would require closer observation by the assault team. Assault team, this is Overwatch. Target vehicles have arrived. Multiple individuals visible, but cannot confirm primary target from this position. Copy, Overwatch. We're moving to better observation positions for positive identification. The next 30 minutes passed slowly as the assault team maneuvered closer to the compound. Sarah maintained constant surveillance through her scope, noting the positions and movements of guards throughout the complex. Overwatch, this is Assault Leader. We have positive identification of the primary target. He's in the main building with approximately 6 associates. Recommend we proceed with mission. Roger, Assault Leader. Overwatch is ready to provide support on your command. Sarah checked her rifle one final time and confirmed her range calculations. The moment of truth was approaching rapidly. All teams, this is Mission Commander. We are go for mission execution. Overwatch, begin sniper sequence in 60 seconds. Sarah settled into her final shooting position, controlling her breathing and heart rate through techniques learned over years of training. Wilson positioned himself to provide spotting assistance and security. Overwatch ready, Sarah reported. Beginning engagement sequence in 10 seconds. The first target was a guard in the eastern tower, approximately 790 meters from her position. Sarah placed the crosshairs precisely on center mass and began her trigger squeeze. The suppressed rifle barely made a sound as the bullet left the barrel. Through her scope, Sarah watched the guard collapse immediately, the .308 round striking exactly where intended. Guard tower 1 down, she reported, already transitioning to the second target. The second guard was positioned near the main building's entrance, roughly 815 meters away. Sarah adjusted her point of aim slightly for the increased range and fired again. Entrance guard down. The third target was more challenging, a sentry positioned behind partial cover near the compound's motor pool. Sarah had to wait several seconds for him to move into a position where she could achieve a clean shot. When the opportunity presented itself, she took it without hesitation. Motor pool guard down. The fourth and fifth targets fell in rapid succession, each shot placed with surgical precision. The guards never had time to react or sound an alarm before Sarah's bullets found their marks. 5 targets eliminated, she reported. Assault team, you have a clear approach route. Roger, Overwatch. Moving now. Sarah watched through her scope as the SEAL assault team emerged from concealment and began their rapid advance toward the compound. The synchronized elimination of the guard positions had created exactly the tactical advantage they needed. But, as the assault team reached the compound's outer wall, the situation changed dramatically. Additional guards appeared from positions that had not been identified during the intelligence preparation phase. Contact. Foster's voice came through the radio. Multiple enemy positions. We're taking fire from the northwest corner of the compound. Sarah immediately shifted her scope to the northwest area, identifying several muzzle flashes from enemy weapons. The additional guards were firing from concealed positions that offered them protection from the assault team's return fire. Overwatch has eyes on enemy positions. Engaging now. The sixth target was an enemy fighter positioned behind a concrete barrier, firing an AK-47 toward the assault team's position. Sarah calculated the angle and holdover required to engage a target behind cover and fired. The bullet struck the concrete barrier and ricocheted into the enemy fighter, eliminating the threat. Northwest Position 1, neutralized. The seventh target was firing from a window in a building that had been thought to be unoccupied. Sarah had to adjust her position slightly to achieve the proper angle for engagement. Window position, engaging. Her shot shattered the window and eliminated the fighter behind it. Window position, neutralized. The eighth target was the most challenging yet, an enemy fighter who was moving between positions, making himself a difficult target. Sarah had to lead her shot, calculating both the target's movement and the bullet's flight time. She squeezed the trigger just as the fighter paused behind what he thought was adequate cover. Mobile target down. The ninth and final target was an enemy fighter who had taken position behind a technical vehicle, one of the pickup trucks with mounted machine guns. He was attempting to bring the heavy weapon to bear on the assault team. This target represented the greatest immediate threat to her teammates. Sarah had to place her shot precisely to neutralize the threat without causing secondary explosions that might endanger the assault team. She aimed for the fighter rather than the vehicle, placing her crosshairs on the narrow target area that was visible behind the truck. The shot was perfect, eliminating the threat just as the fighter was about to open fire with the mounted machine gun. Final target down. All identified threats neutralized. The total engagement sequence had taken exactly 14 minutes from the first shot to the last. 9 enemy fighters eliminated with 9 precisely placed shots at ranges varying from 790 to 830 meters. Outstanding work, Overwatch. Foster's voice came through the radio, breathing heavily from the assault. You cleared our entire approach route and eliminated multiple threats we couldn't see. The assault proceeded smoothly with Sniper Overwatch providing continuous security. Al-Baghdadi and his associates were captured alive, along with valuable intelligence materials that would support future operations. The extraction phase went according to plan, with Sarah and Wilson providing rear security as the team withdrew to their pickup point. The helicopter arrived on schedule, and the entire team was safely extracted without friendly casualties. During the flight back to base, Chief Torres approached Sarah in the cargo compartment. The noise of the helicopter made conversation difficult, but his message was clear. Martinez, he shouted over the engine noise. That was the finest display of precision shooting under pressure I've ever witnessed. You saved lives today. Sarah nodded her acknowledgement, but remained focused on post-mission security procedures. The compliments were gratifying, but she knew that professional performance was simply expected rather than exceptional. However, she also knew that something fundamental had changed during those 14 minutes. She had not only proven her capabilities to the SEAL team, but had demonstrated them under the ultimate test, actual combat conditions where failure would have meant the death of her teammates. When the helicopter touched down at their base, Sarah was no longer the outsider trying to prove herself. She was a fully accepted member of one of the world's most elite military units, having earned that acceptance through demonstrated competence when it mattered most. The mission debriefing would come later, along with formal recognition of her performance. But, as Sarah secured her equipment and prepared to leave the helicopter, she knew that she had crossed a threshold that few people ever reach. She had proven herself in the ultimate arena, where skill and courage are measured not by training scores or qualification standards, but by the ability to protect her teammates' lives under the most demanding circumstances possible. The war in Syria would continue, and there would be other missions, other challenges, other opportunities to prove herself. But Sarah Martinez had already achieved something that would define the rest of her military career. She had earned the unqualified respect of the Navy's most elite warriors through the only method that truly mattered in their world: superior performance when lives were on the line. The debriefing session took place 12 hours after the teams returned to base. Sarah sat at a conference table surrounded by her teammates, intelligence officers, and senior commanders who had flown in specifically to hear about Operation Desert Wind. The captured intelligence materials were spread across a separate table, evidence of the mission's success. Colonel Patricia Wells, the commanding officer of Naval Special Warfare Group 2, presided over the session. Wells was a career special operations officer whose reputation for tactical innovation had earned her respect throughout the special warfare community. She had also been quietly supportive of efforts to integrate qualified women into combat roles. Let's begin with the sniper overwatch phase, Colonel Wells said, reviewing her notes. Martinez, walk us through your engagement sequence. Sarah stood and approached the tactical display showing the compound layout. Using a laser pointer, she indicated each target position and explained her decision-making process for the engagement order. The first 5 targets were predetermined during mission planning, guard positions that needed to be eliminated to allow the assault team's approach. The sequence was designed to minimize the chance of early detection. She paused, indicating the northwestern section of the compound. Targets 6 through 9 were not identified during intelligence preparation. They appeared only when the assault team began their approach. Captain Hayes from Naval Intelligence leaned forward. How did you identify and prioritize these additional targets? I maintained continuous observation of the compound during the assault phase. When muzzle flashes appeared from unexpected positions, I immediately assessed which targets represented the greatest threat to the assault team and engaged them accordingly. Commander Sullivan added his perspective. From my position with the assault team, Martinez's support was flawless. She eliminated threats we couldn't even see, and her timing was perfect. No wasted shots, no hesitation. Colonel Wells studied the mission timeline. 14 minutes for 9 targets at extended range under combat conditions. That's exceptional performance by any standard. Chief Torres, who had initially been Sarah's harshest critic, spoke up. Colonel, I've worked with snipers for 15 years. What Martinez accomplished yesterday was beyond exceptional. It was the difference between mission success and potential catastrophe. Elaborate on that assessment, Chief. Ma'am, those additional targets that appeared during the assault would have caught us in a crossfire. Without precision sniper support to eliminate them quickly, we would have been pinned down in the open with no cover. Martinez didn't just support the mission, she saved it. The intelligence officers presented their preliminary analysis of the captured materials. Al-Baghdadi's documents revealed a network of financial operations spanning 3 countries, information that would enable dozens of follow-up operations against ISIS infrastructure. The success of this mission extends far beyond the capture of one individual, Colonel Wells observed. The intelligence gathered will support operations for months to come. Lieutenant Commander Foster, who had undergone perhaps the most dramatic change in attitude towards Sarah, addressed the group. I'd like to make an observation about team dynamics. Before this mission, there were legitimate questions about how a new team member would integrate under combat conditions. Those questions have been definitively answered, meaning that Martinez didn't just perform her assigned duties competently. She elevated the performance of the entire team through her professionalism and tactical expertise. Sergeant Wilson nodded his agreement. The sniper-spotter relationship requires absolute trust and communication. Martinez and I had worked together for exactly 3 days before this mission, but our coordination was seamless. Her professional approach made my job easier. Colonel Wells turned to Sarah. Martinez, what's your assessment of the mission and your integration with this team? Sarah had anticipated this question and had given it considerable thought during the flight back to base. Colonel, I believe this mission demonstrated that professional competence transcends traditional barriers. When people are focused on mission accomplishment and mutual support, other factors become irrelevant. Are you satisfied with your acceptance by this team? I'm satisfied that I've proven my capabilities. Acceptance is an ongoing process that's built through consistent performance over time. Yesterday was an important step, but it's just the beginning. The debriefing continued for 2 more hours, covering every aspect of the mission in minute detail. The performance analysis confirmed what everyone already knew. Operation Desert Wind had been executed flawlessly, with results that exceeded initial objectives. After the formal session ended, Colonel Wells asked Sarah to remain for a private conversation. When the room cleared, Wells studied Sarah with the analytical gaze of a senior officer evaluating subordinate performance. Martinez, I'm going to be direct with you. Your performance yesterday has created what I'll call a positive problem. Word about your capabilities is spreading rapidly through the special operations community. There are multiple units requesting your assignment. Sarah was surprised. Ma'am, I'm satisfied with my current assignment. This team has given me the opportunity to prove myself. I understand your loyalty, and it speaks well of your character. But you need to understand the broader implications of what you've accomplished. You've proven that qualified women can perform effectively in the most demanding special operations roles. That success creates opportunities and responsibilities. What kind of responsibilities? The responsibility to expand those opportunities for other qualified women. The responsibility to serve as an example and mentor. The responsibility to help transform military culture in positive ways. Sarah considered this carefully. She had always focused on her individual performance rather than broader social implications. Colonel, I've never seen myself as a pioneer or role model. I just want to be a good soldier. Wells smiled. The best pioneers rarely see themselves that way. They're just competent people doing their jobs well. But their excellence creates pathways for others to follow. Are you suggesting I should transfer to a different unit? I'm suggesting you keep an open mind about future opportunities. Your current team clearly values your contributions, and there's no immediate need for change. But as your career progresses, you may find yourself in positions to influence policy and training that affects thousands of people. The conversation concluded with Colonel Wells encouraging Sarah to consider the long-term implications of her career choices. It was a perspective Sarah had never contemplated, but she recognized the validity of the Colonel's observations. Over the following weeks, Sarah settled into the rhythm of life with her SEAL team. The dramatic acceptance that followed her combat performance translated into genuine integration with the unit. She was included in all team activities, treated as an equal partner in mission planning, and gradually became an integral part of the team's identity. The transformation was perhaps most evident in Chief Torres, whose initial hostility had evolved into professional respect and eventually genuine friendship. During a training exercise 3 weeks after Operation Desert Wind, he pulled Sarah aside for a conversation that surprised her. Martinez, I need to tell you something. When you first joined this team, I thought it was a mistake. Not because of your qualifications, but because I believed it would change the team dynamic in negative ways. I sense that, Chief. I don't blame you for being protective of your team. That's just it. You became part of the team without changing what makes us effective. You elevated our capabilities without disrupting our cohesion. That's a rare talent. Sarah appreciated the acknowledgement, but she was also conscious of how hard she had worked to achieve that result. Chief, can I ask you something? What was it that convinced you I belonged here? Torres considered the question carefully. It wasn't just your shooting, although that was impressive. It was your attitude. You never demanded acceptance or made your gender an issue. You just focused on being the best teammate you could be, and you let your performance speak for itself. Is that advice for other women who might follow this path? It's advice for anyone joining an elite team. Competence and professionalism earn respect. Everything else is noise. The team's next mission came 6 weeks later, another direct action operation, this time targeting a weapons manufacturing facility in eastern Syria. Sarah's role was again sniper overwatch, but the mission parameters were different enough to require new tactical approaches. The target was a fortified compound surrounded by open terrain that offered limited concealment for approach routes. Intelligence indicated heavy security with multiple guard positions and vehicle patrols. The sniper support requirements were more complex than Operation Desert Wind, calling for longer-range engagements and sustained suppressive fire. During mission planning, Sarah suggested modifications to the standard sniper employment that would improve effectiveness against the target's defensive layout. Her recommendations were based on lessons learned from her previous urban warfare experience and were readily accepted by the team. Martinez has a point about the Eastern approach, Lieutenant Commander Foster observed during the planning session. Traditional sniper positioning won't provide adequate coverage for that sector. Sarah had proposed establishing multiple sniper positions to create overlapping fields of fire, a technique she had learned during her time with Force Recon. The approach required more complex coordination, but offered superior tactical flexibility. I can move between positions during the operation, she explained. If we cache equipment at predetermined locations, I can provide coverage for different phases of the assault from optimal angles. Chief Torres studied the proposal. That's aggressive tactics. Moving during contact increases risk. Calculated risk, Chief. The alternative is accepting dead space in our coverage that could compromise the assault team. The mission proceeded according to the modified plan, with Sarah successfully engaging targets from 3 different positions during the operation. Her ability to adapt to changing tactical requirements while maintaining precision fire demonstrated advanced tactical thinking that impressed even experienced operators. The weapons facility was successfully destroyed, and the team extracted without casualties. Sarah's innovative employment of sniper tactics contributed significantly to the mission's success and further established her reputation as an exceptional operator. Following this second successful mission, Sarah began receiving informal mentorship requests from other women in the Special Operations pipeline. Female sailors and Marines would approach her during her rare visits to larger military installations, seeking advice about training, career development, and dealing with resistance to their participation in combat roles. Initially, Sarah was uncomfortable with this role. She had always focused on her individual performance rather than broader social implications. But, gradually, she recognized the importance of providing guidance to women facing similar challenges. During one such conversation with a young Marine sergeant who was attempting to qualify for reconnaissance training, Sarah found herself offering advice that surprised her with its wisdom. "Don't try to be better than the men," she told the sergeant. "Try to be better than yourself every day. Focus on continuous improvement rather than comparison to others. And never, ever make excuses or ask for special consideration. Is that how you succeeded? That's how anyone succeeds in this community. Gender becomes irrelevant when you consistently deliver superior performance. But you have to earn that credibility through demonstrated competence, not through arguments about fairness or equality." These informal mentoring conversations gradually became a regular part of Sarah's duties, though she never considered them as important as her operational responsibilities. She was beginning to understand what Colonel Wells had meant about broader responsibilities, but her primary focus remained on being the best teammate and operator possible. The team's third mission together came 4 months after Operation Desert Wind, and by then, Sarah's integration was complete. She was no longer the outsider proving herself, but simply another team member whose capabilities were understood and valued. The target was a high-value individual operating from a mountain compound in northern Iraq. The mission required a helicopter insertion at high altitude, followed by a difficult approach through mountainous terrain. The physical demands were extreme, testing the limits of even the most physically fit operators. Sarah carried her share of team equipment during the approach march, her physical conditioning enabling her to keep pace with the team through terrain that would challenge most soldiers. Her load included not only her personal weapons and equipment, but also shared team gear that distributed the burden equally among all team members. "Martinez, you good with that load?" Sergeant Wilson asked during a rest halt, noting that Sarah was carrying one of the heavier equipment packages. "I'm good, Wilson. Thanks for checking." Chief Torres, overhearing the exchange, smiled to himself. The question had been asked out of genuine concern for a teammate rather than doubt about her capabilities. It was exactly the kind of interaction that characterized healthy team dynamics. The mission itself was complicated by weather conditions that degraded visibility and made precision shooting more challenging. Sarah had to compensate for wind conditions and atmospheric disturbances that pushed her technical skills to their limits. When the assault commenced, she found herself engaging targets at ranges exceeding 1,000 meters in variable wind conditions. The shots required precise calculations and perfect execution, with no margin for error. Each shot found its mark, eliminating threats that could have compromised the assault team's advance. Her performance under difficult conditions further enhanced her reputation within the special operations community and demonstrated that her earlier successes were not anomalies. After the mission, Chief Torres approached her with a proposition that would change her career trajectory significantly. "Martinez, I've been asked to recommend someone for a special assignment. Advanced sniper instructor position at the Naval Special Warfare Training Center. The job would involve developing curriculum and training the next generation of special operations snipers." Sarah was intrigued but cautious. "Chief, I'm happy with my current assignment. This team has given me opportunities one value. I understand that. But this position would allow you to influence training standards and practices that affect thousands of operators. It's a chance to share your expertise with the entire community. Are you recommending me for this position? I'm recommending the best sniper I've ever worked with. The fact that you happen to be a woman makes the assignment even more significant, but it's not the reason for the recommendation. Sarah spent several days considering the opportunity. It would mean leaving the team that had given her the chance to prove herself, but it would also provide a platform for influencing the development of future special operations snipers. She ultimately decided to accept the position, recognizing that her unique combination of combat experience and proven teaching ability could benefit the entire special warfare community. Her teammates were supportive of the decision, understanding the broader implications of her assignment. You've proven that qualified women can excel in special operations, Lieutenant Commander Foster told her during her farewell dinner with the team. Now you have the chance to help create the training standards that will enable other qualified women to follow your path. As Sarah prepared to transition to her new role, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had begun with the simple goal of proving her individual capabilities, but had discovered broader responsibilities she had never anticipated. Her success with the SEAL team had opened doors not just for herself, but for other women seeking to serve in combat roles. The path had been challenging, requiring her to overcome prejudice through demonstrated excellence. But the results validated the effort. Sarah Martinez was no longer just an exceptional sniper proving herself in a male-dominated field. She had become a bridge between the military's past and its future, helping to transform institutional culture through the simple but powerful method of superior professional performance. The Naval Special Warfare Training Center at Coronado was a sprawling complex of ranges, classrooms, and specialized training facilities where the Navy's most elite operators were forged. Sarah Martinez arrived on a crisp Monday morning in October, carrying orders that would make her the first woman to serve as a senior sniper instructor in the program's history. The advanced marksmanship building housed some of the most sophisticated training equipment in the military, including computer-controlled target systems, ballistic simulation chambers, and precision shooting ranges that could replicate conditions from any environment on Earth. Sarah would be responsible for training Navy SEALs, special warfare combatant craft crewmen, and selected personnel from other services in advanced sniper techniques. Master Chief Petty Officer Robert Bear Harrison met her at the building entrance. Harrison was a legend in the special operations community, a veteran of dozens of combat deployments whose reputation as a sniper instructor was unmatched. He was also known for his old-school attitudes and resistance to changes in traditional training methods. Martinez, Harrison said, extending a hand that engulfed hers completely. "Welcome to the House of Precision. I've read your file and talked to Chief Torres. Impressive operational record. Thank you, Master Chief. I'm looking forward to contributing to the program." Harrison studied her with eyes that had evaluated thousands of aspiring snipers over his career. "Torres tells me you shot 9 targets in 14 minutes during your Syrian operation. That's exceptional performance. But teaching is different from doing. You ready for that challenge?" "I believe so, Master Chief. I've had some informal mentoring experience, and I understand the differences between individual performance and instruction. We'll see. Your first class is tomorrow morning. Advanced Urban Sniper Techniques, 12 students, all experienced operators. They're going to test you in ways that enemy fire never could." Sarah spent the remainder of the day familiarizing herself with the training curriculum, reviewing lesson plans, and examining the equipment she would be using. The course materials were comprehensive, covering everything from basic marksmanship principles to advanced techniques for engaging targets in complex urban environments. That evening, she reviewed student files for her first class. The 12 students included 8 Navy SEALs, 2 Army Rangers, 1 Marine Force Recon Operator, and 1 Air Force Pararescueman. All were experienced combat veterans with multiple deployments and proven records in special operations. The student roster read like a who's who of elite military units. Staff Sergeant Michael Chun, a Ranger sniper with 6 combat deployments and 37 confirmed kills. Petty Officer First Class David Rodriguez, a SEAL with specialized training in counter-sniper operations. The credentials were intimidating even for someone with Sarah's background. She arrived at the classroom 30 minutes early the next morning, arranging materials, and ensuring all equipment was properly configured. When the students began arriving, their expressions ranged from curious to skeptical. Word had spread through the special operations community about the female sniper who had earned legendary status with her performance in Syria. "Good morning, gentlemen," Sarah began as the last student took his seat. "I'm Chief Petty Officer Sarah Martinez, and I'll be your primary instructor for advanced urban sniper techniques. I know some of you may have questions about my qualifications, so let me address those immediately." She moved to the whiteboard and wrote a series of numbers. 47 confirmed kills, 3 combat deployments. Longest confirmed kill 1,247 meters, 9 targets eliminated in 14 minutes during Operation Desert Wind. The room was silent as the students processed these statistics. These were impressive numbers by any standard, and they represented exactly the kind of combat experience that earned respect in the special operations community. Staff Sergeant Chen raised his hand. "Chief Martinez, what's your background prior to instructor assignment?" "Force Recon attached to 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines for my first 2 deployments. Most recently, I served with SEAL Team 6 for specialized operations in Syria and Iraq." Team 6. Petty Officer Rodriguez looked surprised. That's unusual assignment for someone outside the SEAL community. It was a temporary assignment based on specialized skills requirements. I was selected for specific missions requiring advanced urban sniper capabilities. The atmosphere in the room shifted perceptibly. Team 6 was the most elite unit in naval special warfare, and assignment to that unit, even temporarily, represented the highest level of professional recognition. Sergeant First Class Williams, the Air Force pararescueman, leaned forward. "Chief, what's your philosophy on sniper employment in urban environments?" Sarah had anticipated this question and had given considerable thought to her instructional approach. "Sergeant, urban sniper work requires different mindset than traditional long-range precision shooting. You're dealing with multiple targets, rapid engagement requirements, and complex ballistics caused by structural interference. The key is flexibility and adaptability." She moved to the tactical display and activated the projection system. Traditional sniper doctrine emphasizes single, precisely aimed shots at extended range. Urban environments often require multiple rapid engagements at varying ranges with consideration for civilian populations and structural damage. For the next hour, Sarah outlined her approach to urban sniper instruction, drawing from her combat experience to illustrate concepts that were often purely theoretical in traditional training programs. The students listened attentively, their initial skepticism gradually replaced by professional interest. "The most important skill for urban snipers," Sarah continued, "is the ability to rapidly assess and prioritize multiple targets while maintaining precision standards. This requires mental discipline and technical proficiency that goes beyond traditional marksmanship training." When the classroom portion ended, the group moved to the urban training complex, a replica city environment where students could practice techniques under realistic conditions. Sarah had spent considerable time the previous evening configuring target arrays and scenarios that would challenge even experienced operators. Today's exercise involves multiple target engagement in a time-compressed scenario, she announced as the students gathered their equipment. "You'll be required to eliminate 8 targets positioned throughout this urban environment within a 12-minute time limit." Staff Sergeant Chin studied the target layout through binoculars. "Chief, some of these positions look nearly impossible. The angles are extreme, and several targets are partially concealed." "Correct, Sergeant. These scenarios are based on actual combat situations I encountered in Syria and Iraq. If you can master these techniques, you'll be prepared for anything you might face operationally." The students took turns attempting the exercise, with Sarah providing individual coaching and guidance. Her teaching style emphasized practical application rather than theoretical discussion, showing students exactly how to adapt their techniques to challenging situations. Petty Officer Rodriguez struggled with one particular target that required shooting through a narrow window at an acute angle. After 2 failed attempts, he became visibly frustrated. "Rodriguez, step back and analyze the problem," Sarah instructed. "What's making this shot difficult?" "The angle is extreme, and I can't get a stable shooting position that provides a clear sight picture." Sarah moved to the firing position and demonstrated the proper technique. The key is adjusting your body position to work with the angle rather than fighting it. Watch my position. She settled into an unconventional shooting stance that accommodated the architectural constraints while maintaining the stability necessary for precision shooting. The demonstration shot struck the target precisely in the center. "Now you try it," she said, stepping aside. Rodriguez replicated her position and successfully engaged the target. That's completely different from what we learned in basic sniper school. Basic school teaches fundamentals. Combat teaches adaptation. This course bridges that gap. By the end of the first week, Sarah had earned genuine respect from her students. Her ability to demonstrate techniques under the same challenging conditions she required of them established credibility that could not be achieved through theoretical instruction alone. Master Chief Harrison observed several of her classes, evaluating her teaching effectiveness and student response. After one particularly challenging exercise, he pulled her aside for evaluation. "Martinez, your students are progressing faster than I've seen in previous classes. What's your secret?" "No secret, Master Chief. I teach techniques that I've used successfully in combat. Students respond better to instruction that they know has been tested under actual operational conditions. Your approach is different from traditional methods. Some of the old-school instructors are concerned about departing from established curriculum." Sarah had expected this reaction. "Master Chief, I'm not trying to replace established methods. I'm trying to enhance them with lessons learned from recent combat experience. The urban warfare environment has evolved significantly in the past decade." Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "Continue with your current approach. Student performance is the ultimate measure of instructional effectiveness." Word about Sarah's teaching methods spread throughout the training center, and requests began coming from other courses for her to provide specialized instruction. Her reputation as an innovative instructor who could bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application made her a valuable resource for multiple programs. 3 months into her assignment, Colonel Wells visited the training center to observe Sarah's classes. The colonel was conducting a broader assessment of women's integration into special operations roles, and Sarah's performance as an instructor was an important data point. "Chief Martinez," Colonel Wells said after observing a full day of instruction, "your students consistently demonstrate higher proficiency levels than previous classes. What accounts for this improvement?" "Colonel, I believe it's the combination of proven techniques and credible instruction. When students know their instructor has successfully employed these techniques in combat, they're more motivated to master them." "Are you satisfied with your transition from operational assignments to instructor duties?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "Colonel, I miss operational work, but I've discovered that teaching allows me to multiply my combat experience. Every student I train carries these techniques into their operational assignments." "That's an excellent perspective. You're influencing far more operations as an instructor than you ever could as an individual operator." 6 months into her instructor assignment, Sarah was asked to develop a new curriculum module focusing on precision shooting in complex urban environments. The request came directly from Naval Special Warfare Command, based on lessons learned from recent operations in Iraq and Syria. The new module would become part of the standard training pipeline for all special operations snipers, ensuring that techniques Sarah had developed through combat experience would be passed on to future generations of operators. "Martinez," Master Chief Harrison told her when announcing the assignment, "this is a significant opportunity. You're essentially writing the doctrine that will guide urban sniper operations for years to come." Sarah approached the curriculum development with the same methodical precision she had applied to combat operations. She reviewed after-action reports from dozens of urban operations, interviewed operators who had faced similar challenges, and tested her proposed techniques extensively under controlled conditions. The resulting curriculum module was comprehensive, covering everything from target identification in cluttered urban environments to techniques for engaging multiple threats while minimizing civilian casualties. It represented a synthesis of traditional sniper doctrine with innovative approaches developed through contemporary combat experience. When the new curriculum was implemented, student performance metrics showed significant improvement in complex scenario training. The techniques Sarah had developed were proving effective for operators across the special operations community. A year into her instructor assignment, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. Chief Torres, her former team leader, arrived at Coronado for a conference and made time to observe one of her classes. Martinez, he said after watching her conduct an advanced urban engagement exercise, "You've become an outstanding instructor. But I have to ask, do you miss operational assignments?" "Every day, Chief. But I've learned that this role has its own rewards. When I see former students applying these techniques successfully in operations, it's almost as satisfying as pulling the trigger myself." "Would you consider returning to operational duties if the opportunity arose?" Sarah was intrigued. "What kind of opportunity?" "There's a new special mission unit being formed. Joint service, highly classified, focused on urban counterterrorism operations. They're looking for experienced operators with proven teaching abilities to help establish training protocols." "Are you recruiting me, Chief?" "I'm offering you the chance to combine operational duties with your instructional expertise. The unit would allow you to test your teaching methods under actual combat conditions." Sarah spent several weeks considering the opportunity. The new assignment would represent a significant career advancement, but it would also mean leaving the training center where she had found unexpected satisfaction in developing future operators. Ultimately, she decided to accept the assignment, recognizing that the combination of operational duties and training development represented the optimal use of her unique skill set. "Master Chief," she told Harrison when submitting her transfer request, "this assignment will allow me to continue developing urban sniper techniques while testing them under operational conditions. The lessons learned will eventually enhance our training programs here." Harrison was supportive of her decision. "Martinez, you've revolutionized our approach to urban sniper instruction. Your influence on this program will continue long after you've moved on to new assignments." As Sarah prepared to leave Coronado, she reflected on her evolution from combat operator to instructor to operational trainer. Each phase of her career had built upon the previous one, creating a unique combination of skills and experience that positioned her to influence special operations training and doctrine. Her students at Coronado had gone on to successful operational assignments, carrying her techniques to units throughout the special operations community. Her curriculum innovations had been adopted as standard training protocols. Her example as a successful female instructor had opened doors for other qualified women to serve in similar roles. Sarah Martinez had proven that excellence in combat operations could translate effectively to excellence in instruction, and that the lessons learned from each role could enhance performance in the other. She was no longer just an exceptional sniper or an innovative instructor. She had become a bridge between operational experience and institutional knowledge, helping to ensure that hard-won combat lessons were preserved and transmitted to future generations of warriors. The Joint Special Mission Unit operated from a classified facility outside Washington, D.C., where the most sensitive counterterrorism operations in the world were planned and executed. Sarah Martinez arrived on a gray November morning, carrying orders that would make her the senior sniper advisor for a unit that didn't officially exist. Task Force Spectre was comprised of operators from all military branches, intelligence agencies, and selected international partners. Their mission was to develop and execute precision operations against high-value targets in urban environments worldwide. Sarah's role would combine operational duties with training development, creating the doctrine for a new generation of urban special operations. Colonel James Mitchell, the unit commander, was a lean man in his 50s whose career spanned 3 decades of special operations. He had personally selected each member of Task Force Spectre based on unique qualifications and proven performance under the most demanding conditions. "Chief Martinez," Colonel Mitchell said as he reviewed her file in his office, "your reputation precedes you. Exceptional operational record, innovative training methods, and the respect of operators throughout the community. That's exactly the combination we need for this unit." "Thank you, sir. I'm honored to be selected for this assignment. Let me be clear about our mission scope. Task Force Spectre handles operations that are too sensitive for conventional special operations units and too complex for traditional intelligence agencies. We operate in environments where failure is not acceptable and success requires capabilities that don't exist anywhere else." Sarah studied the classified briefing materials that outlined the unit's operational parameters. The targets were individuals whose activities threatened national security but who operated from within heavily protected urban environments where conventional military operations were impossible. Sir, what's the typical engagement profile for this unit? Single targets or small groups, always in complex urban settings, usually with significant civilian populations nearby. Precision is paramount, both in terms of target elimination and avoiding collateral damage. Over the next month, Sarah was integrated into Task Force Spectre's operational planning cycle. The unit's approach was unlike anything she had experienced, combining intelligence collection, target development, and operational execution in a seamless process that could adapt rapidly to changing conditions. Her first mission briefing involved a target in Belgrade, a weapons trafficker whose network was supplying advanced armaments to terrorist organizations throughout Europe. Intelligence indicated he would be attending a meeting in a crowded commercial district, presenting a narrow window for elimination. The challenge, explained Dr. Lisa Chun, the unit's intelligence analyst, is that the target operates exclusively from public locations with heavy civilian traffic. Traditional military operations are impossible without significant collateral damage risk. Sarah studied the target area through satellite imagery and architectural plans. The proposed engagement would require a shot through an urban canyon with multiple wind variables and potential interference from civilian activity. What's the maximum range for this engagement? She asked. Approximately 650 meters from the nearest feasible firing position. The shot would be through a gap between buildings with a target window of perhaps 30 seconds. Sarah analyzed the ballistics and environmental factors. This is achievable, but it requires perfect timing and coordination. We'll need real-time intelligence on target location and civilian patterns. The mission proceeded 3 weeks later with Sarah positioned in an abandoned office building overlooking the target area. Her shooting position was concealed behind office furniture, providing cover from observation while maintaining clear sight lines to the target location. Overwatch in position, she reported through her communication system. I have clear sight lines to the target area. For 2 hours, she maintained surveillance while intelligence assets tracked the target's movement through the city. The waiting required mental discipline that separated elite operators from merely skilled ones. The ability to remain perfectly focused while nothing happened, knowing that action might be required instantly. Target approaching the engagement area, Dr. Chin's voice came through her earpiece. ETA to position, for minutes. Sarah settled into her final shooting position, checking wind conditions and verifying her range calculations. The shot would require compensating for a crosswind that varied with altitude due to the urban canyon effect. Target in sight. Standing by for final identification. Through her scope, she watched as several individuals entered the cafe where the meeting was scheduled to take place. The target was a middle-aged man whose appearance matched intelligence photographs, but positive identification required confirmation from surveillance assets. Positive identification confirmed. You are cleared to engage upon target isolation. Sarah tracked the target through her scope as he moved within the cafe. The challenge was waiting for a moment when he was sufficiently separated from civilians to ensure a clean engagement with no collateral damage. After 27 minutes of observation, the opportunity presented itself. The target stepped onto a small balcony overlooking the street, temporarily isolated from other people. Target isolated. Engaging now. The shot was perfect, striking the target precisely and eliminating the threat without endangering civilians. Within seconds, Sarah was breaking down her position and moving to her extraction point, leaving no evidence of her presence. Target neutralized. Moving to extraction. The operation was completed without civilian casualties or international incidents. Intelligence assets confirmed that the weapons trafficking network lost its primary coordinator, disrupting operations throughout Europe. During the post-mission debriefing, Colonel Mitchell praised Sarah's performance, but also challenged her to think beyond individual operations. Chief Martinez, your shooting was flawless, but I want you to consider the broader implications of what we're doing here. We're not just conducting operations. We're developing the methods that will guide precision urban operations for decades. Sir, are you asking me to document our techniques for future use? I'm asking you to think like a strategic asset rather than just a tactical one. Your experience here should inform training protocols, equipment development, and operational doctrine that will benefit the entire special operations community. Sarah began maintaining detailed records of each operation, noting techniques that proved effective and identifying areas where improvements were needed. Her operational notebook became a comprehensive guide to precision urban engagement that would eventually influence training throughout the special operations community. The unit's next mission took them to Eastern Europe, where a terrorist financier was operating from within a heavily protected compound in Prague. The target had survived multiple assassination attempts and had developed sophisticated security measures that made conventional approaches impossible. This target never follows predictable patterns, Dr. Chen explained during the mission briefing. He varies his routes, timing, and security arrangements constantly. Our window of opportunity will be brief and unexpected. Sarah studied the target area extensively, identifying multiple potential firing positions that could accommodate different scenarios. Her preparation included caching equipment at several locations, allowing her to adapt rapidly to changing conditions. I recommend establishing 3 separate overwatch positions, she told the planning team. If the target appears unexpectedly, we can engage from whichever position offers the best opportunity. The mission required 5 days of surveillance before the target presented a viable engagement opportunity. Sarah moved between positions each night, maintaining readiness while avoiding detection by security forces. When the opportunity finally arose, she was positioned nearly 900 meters from the target location, the longest urban engagement of her career. The shot required compensation for multiple environmental factors and precise timing to coincide with the target's movement pattern. Target acquired. Range 870 meters. Wind variable from southwest. The engagement was successful, eliminating the target without alerting his security team. Sarah's ability to make precision shots at extended range in urban environments was becoming legendary within the intelligence community. After 18 months with Task Force Spectre, Sarah had participated in 12 operations across 4 continents. Her success rate was perfect. Every assigned target had been eliminated without collateral damage or operational compromise. More importantly, she had developed a comprehensive understanding of precision urban operations that extended far beyond individual shooting skills. Her insights into intelligence integration, operational planning, and tactical execution were contributing to fundamental advances in special operations doctrine. Colonel Mitchell approached her with a career opportunity that would leverage her unique expertise at the strategic level. Chief Martinez, I've been asked to recommend someone for assignment to the Pentagon. Special Operations Command is establishing a new directorate for urban warfare development, and they need someone with your combination of operational experience and doctrinal innovation. Sarah was surprised by the offer. Pentagon assignments were typically reserved